This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
It got dark as midnight, really, really dark.
Our leaders, our students, our team members, our community have just stepped up.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
We're sending that spacecraft farther into space than ever before.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Meteorological March Madness. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. That was on full display around this time yesterday. Severe thunderstorms brought flooding, wind, and hail damage to parts of upstate New York, where mopping up has been the order of the day. That's students and staff mopping up a basement music room at Houghton University, which President Dr. Wayne Lewis says saw significant flooding damage, but adds that Houghton rose to the challenge.
But let me tell you, as you would expect, our leaders, our students, our team members, our community have just stepped up, and they have been incredible. Can't say enough about our facility staff and the leadership and the professionalism that they've shown throughout this event.
With a break due to start tomorrow anyway, Houghton canceled classes for the rest of the week. Over in the Cattaraugus County town of Persia, Supervisor John Walgus tells WGRZ,
It got dark as midnight, really, really dark. Then straight line winds and rain came through. And when I mean straight line, the hail picked up after that, and it blew the windows out in the town hall, and it went straight through the building and hit the far wall, which is about 30 feet.
Now, before the storms even made it there, they clipped northwestern Pennsylvania. The sound of power lines exploding against a fallen tree. That was in Harbor Creek. Still flood watches and warnings across parts of upstate New York at this hour. Kevin Williams' forecast later in this newscast. The protester theme song this morning outside of the U.S. Supreme Court. For the second straight day, the spotlight shining brightly on the High Court, which had President Trump in attendance this morning for a hearing on a bid to overturn his order ending birthright citizenship for kids born to parents here temporarily or illegally. Here's Chief Justice John Roberts questioning the Trump administration's Solicitor General.
A new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out to, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
The ACLU's Anthony Romero.
Birthright citizenship is how we started atoning for America's original sin of chattel slavery. Birthright citizenship is how we made citizens out of the children of enslaved people.
A decision in the case not expected until June. President Trump will be on nationwide TV tonight to update Americans on the war with Iran. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
We'll be leaving very soon. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days.
Well, as Passover fell in Israel hours ago, so did more Iranian missiles and exploding drones. Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Tel Aviv with no reprieve for Passover.
Israel in general and Tel Aviv in particular have been under almost constant bombardment throughout the day today. One of the most intense bombardments, in fact, since the very early days of this war.
President Trump's address set to begin at 9, picking up where Apollo left off. Sometime next hour, NASA hopes to launch the Artemis II rocket into orbit, from which it will then begin a 10-day mission to orbit the moon.
We're sending that spacecraft farther into space than ever before.
That's NASA's Jared Isaacman, who says the first 8 minutes of launch are the most critical.
I mean, it is a huge rocket. A lot of things going on in that 8 minutes.
The launch window opens a little more than an hour from now. A little lower in the atmosphere, we're just learning now of a cockpit mix-up that caused a big scare in the skies over New York City. Earlier this month, a Delta regional jet, Flight 5752, was on final approach to LaGuardia when a mix-up became apparent over what control tower they were talking to.
Tower 5752, confirm clear to land for.
That's who?
Brickyard 5752.
Brickyard 5752. I'm sorry, where are you?
Turned out the pilots were tuned to the wrong frequency. They were talking to controllers at the JFK airport tower, not LaGuardia's. Despite that, the jet landed safely at LaGuardia, but the FAA is looking into what happened there. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, a recap of our top regional stories and highlights from today's edition of Real Answers. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. A verdict has been reached for upstate New York correctional officer Jonah Levy in the Messiah Natwi trial. We get the story from Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Yeah, a jury in Utica, New York has found former CO Jonah Levi guilty of manslaughter, gang assault, and conspiracy, but he was acquitted on second-degree murder charges. Levi was the first to go on trial. 22-year-old Messiah Natwi was struck dozens of times by guards who used their fists, boots, and batons. He died from massive head trauma. The beating occurred March 1st, 2025 during a wildcat strike by thousands of COs that forced the governor to send in the National Guard to keep order. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. Police in the Southern Tier are speaking out about bail reform. This after a recent crime spree in Bath and Hornell in the Southern Tier. Nathan Gonzalez, a 38-year-old homeless man, was arrested for assault in Hornell, then a break-in at Rico's Pizza in Bath, then an incident on Rumsey Street in Bath later that night, then 2 incidents at the Dollar General in Bath. Sergeant Megan Chersnowski tells WENY it was all preventable.
Despite having already been in jail on, different crimes, if he had been held, that may have been prevented.
Lieutenant Brian Logsdon says they've had issues ever since bail reform was enacted in 2020 to lower the prison population.
We've noticed over the last several years, somebody is charged with a crime. Oftentimes they're out within a couple hours or before the arresting officer even makes it home from their shift and they're committing another offense. They know there's no consequences. They know that they have several months, if not up to a year, before they're even held accountable for those offenses. So time is on their side.
The officers say it's a reminder to lock your cars and doors at your home. Pennsylvania farmers drive the state's #1 industry and help feed America. But high cost and economic activity pushed farmers to rally at the state capitol in Harrisburg Tuesday. Farm Bureau President Chris Hoffman led the group to push for bills to ease the financial pressures on farmers.
The economics are not good on the farm right now.
Lancaster County farmer Luke Brubaker says the price of fuel is costing his farm thousands weekly.
Diesel fuel in our farm has jumped probably about $2. It is going to put a lot of stress on our fertilizer prices. Fuel helps to make fertilizers, and if you aren't making it on your own farm from animals, so that is a very big concern, the fuel price.
Diesel fuel has jumped $2 a gallon since the start of the war with Iran. There's also a bill in the works, Senate Bill 689, which would ensure dairy farmers receive premium payments already built into milk prices. Do you own a moped in PA? Moped laws might be changing in the Keystone State. Republican State Rep Roman Kozak has proposed a bill that would exempt mopeds from mandatory titling. He says it modernizes moped laws in the Keystone State while aligning with standards already adopted in other states. And pizza shops across New York and Pennsylvania preparing for Good Friday. Many people coming off of Lent, pizza has proven to be a popular choice.
That means make the dough.
Butch Malecki is the dough maker at Arcaro and Forge Pizzeria in Old Forge, PA, and tells WNEP.
A lot of extra dough this week, especially for Good Friday. Batch after batch. Each batch makes about 57 trays of pizza. We're going to go above and beyond that.
He says his pizzeria has a line out the door 3 days before Easter Sunday.
The orders keep coming in. Orders coming over at DoorDash. We get a lot of orders, especially on Good Friday.
And manager Amanda Crippa says their white pizza is a red hot seller.
Yes, this is one of our staples. This and the red is our most popular trays. Also shrimp and pepper. That seems to be a big popular tray. If you order ahead of time, you can get it pre-cooked. Cook it when you're ready so you're not waiting in the long lines.
She says they'll crank out over 300 pizzas in 24 hours for Good Friday. All right, up next, highlights from today's edition of Real Answers. With Easter fast approaching, licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson says it's a very fitting season to try to resurrect a broken relationship.
Our pastor at our church here in Olean refers to as the Super Bowl of our faith, and that is the resurrection of Christ on Resurrection Sunday here, coming up here this week. I mean, there's no better time than to really open up doors of discussion and really address this topic. Now, Mark, we did address this not terribly long ago, and this was maybe sometime late last year, but what a great time to revisit this, because I know there's a lot of hurting folks out there, with strange relationships with friends, family, parents, your adult children, all of these areas. And this is a great time to revisit this.
Yeah, they're in such divisive times. People have been so divided, whether it's politics or whatever, that there's probably more rifts out there than maybe there have been said in the past. Reconciliation is wonderful, but it's almost never easy, especially for the one who has to take the initiative.
Absolutely. And again, we got to understand that it is going to be uncomfortable, and making sure your heart is right with the Lord first, and just really understanding that he's ultimately the one that's responsible to pull our estranged loved ones' hearts back to him. As we're staying tight with him and we're in relationship with him and others that share our faith, that's how we know, and that's how we will understand when the time is right to reach out. It's going to be potential moments of discomfort. No two situations are alike. And I will say this also, when we're talking about reaching out to loved ones who maybe are estranged, we got to be careful if there's any kind of legal stipulations with regards to interacting with our loved ones. We need to make sure we exercise caution and not violate any legal agreements that are in place. But even in those situations, bathe the situation in prayer. Ask that the Lord brings someone else into the lives of those people who, for whatever reason, whatever the circumstances are. If you're not able to really reach out yourself, pray that somebody else is put in their lives that will actually be able to do that for you.
Yeah, that is just so important in any situation like this. It's like you said, just got to be bathed in prayer from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes too, again, those that are closest to us or that have historically been close to us are the least likely to listen to us. And that's just the way it is. Even in the Bible, the prophet was not accepted in his own hometown. Okay. So very similarly, we are not necessarily well received when it comes to faith, sometimes by those that we really love. And so again, praying for somebody else to be brought into their lives is so incredibly important.
You mentioned, no two situations are the same. I guess we should maybe try to tackle a few practical avenues to pursue. Okay, we've decided, we want to pursue this reconciliation. How do you actually go about it?
Yep. Because it's of the nature of the week that we're in right now, celebrating the resurrection on this coming Sunday, and then, of course, Good Friday. There's already a propensity that folks have to be thinking in terms of faith, and even folks that might be just marginally connected to the faith are much more likely to accept the invitation. And of course, there's a call for pastors and clergy to really knock it out of the park with a home run message. All right. Of course, go beyond the typical, but just really understand the significance, just again, the absolute significance of the resurrection and exactly what this means for us as believers and our world as a whole. In other ways too, Mark, to help break that ice, I guess you could say, and just allow some sort of reestablishment of communication. Sometimes it's hard to do it right away with a verbal or a face-to-face conversation. So I've said it before on, various segments here, writing letters, sending cards to open up channels of communication is a great way to start that without it being unnecessarily awkward. But at the same time, you might have to take some ownership and responsibility for any roles that you have maybe played in the degradation of a relationship. But at the same time, don't overcompensate. Don't over-apologize for things that really aren't your responsibility just because you're hoping that that'll make it easier for the other person. Okay, you don't want to do that either. But accepting that responsibility that you do have in a situation like this is definitely going to go a long way to help restore at least the channels of communication with our loved ones.
Highlights from today's Real Answers. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Is investing just another form of gambling? Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. Both involve risk, but the motivations and the outcomes are very different. Gambling depends on chance and often feeds the hope of quick money without creating real value. Investing, on the other hand, puts money to work in productive enterprises, businesses that create goods, services, and jobs. Scripture also warns us about the desire for quick riches. In 1 Timothy 6:9, we read, "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap." Wise investing isn't driven by the thrill of sudden wealth. Instead, it reflects patience, discipline, and stewardship, growing resources over time so they can later support your needs, bless others, and serve God's purposes. We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Thank you, Rob. Finally at 5 around New York and PA, spring season is also pothole season. But hopefully you'll never find a whopper as big as the one that's been plaguing a suburban road in Johannesburg, South Africa. Now the subject of a viral video.
Welcome to Douglasdale at this wonderful snorkel pool that has been here for for about 3 years, despite many attempts to fix it.
That's 75-year-old Helen Zilla running for mayor of Johannesburg, who donned mask and snorkel to show just how deep that hole in the road really is.
I can even do the backstroke over here. Ooh, I wonder if there are any fishes in here. Let me take a look.
Well, we don't know if Helen's comical video will get her elected, but a day after it was posted online, the current mayor said the pipe was fixed and the snorkel pool had been filled in. And no fooling, that's the world we live in for Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.